Shri Radha Madhava ki jai.
Jai.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giridharadhari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Giridharadhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tiravanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Premanande Haribo.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. We're on text 14. Another therefore verse. You see how Suta Goswami is building a case. Tismad ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam padahi shrutavya kirtitavyascha yeya pujaschа nityada. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Purport. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above-mentioned castes and orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshiping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagements in these four different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time, if he is simply glorified, truly or falsely, in the daily newspapers. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadhyasya shloka of the Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. Jai.
Jai.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashrakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Premanande Haribol. Okay, so therefore, based on the principle of the previous verse of somehow or other satisfying the Lord by whatever you do, your work, that the point is to satisfy the Lord. Therefore, with one pointed attention, we have to have a practice. Nityada. Nityada, the last word in the verse, means constantly or always. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, same point as made earlier in this chapter. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, always serving. And if you can't do always, then try and do daily. Vishwanath says that literally. If you can't always chant, daily chant. If you can't always hear Bhagavatam, have a daily practice. And Prabhupada makes a beautiful point in the purport. These four things: hearing, Tasmadikina Manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Pratihiv Shotavya, hearing, Kirtitavyas, kirtan, glorifying, Dhyaya, dhyana, meditation, thinking about, remembering, and puja, worshiping, honoring. There's these four things in life always. And it's a beautiful point because it really breaks down the false distinction between the so-called religious and the so-called not. It's like everybody's glorifying somebody. How do you know? Everyone's talking about somebody. And that's all it is. We're little attention givers. We're little units of attention. So it's a matter of, we can talk about Krishna, or we can talk about the impending NHL playoffs, or we can talk about the tariffs and the political situation, or we can talk about that favorite season of The Simpsons we had when we were a kid, or we can talk about our dreams, or we have to talk about something. We're going to. That's why we have tongues. They're made for talking. And it's one of the major distinctions between humans and non-humans is we can talk. It's a privilege and a responsibility. And we're going to talk about stuff. And we're going to talk about people. And we're going to give them attention that way. And we give our minds attention that way. And that's necessary in material life. We have to talk about different things. And as Prabhupada points out, how does he put it? He says, maybe some temporary reactions to such propaganda. He calls it propaganda. But there are no permanent effects. It doesn't actually change anything systemically. It doesn't change the basic system of things to push this agenda or that agenda materially. However, what does make a significant change is deciding to do that for Krishna. So I was reading, my Guru Maharaj was glorifying one of his godbrothers, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, who was saying in his typically understated way, I have noticed that when I go to the morning program and I chant Hare Krishna in the morning, I feel happy. And it's actually, it is understated. You could say a lot more than that, but it's actually very significant because you can't get up in the morning or anytime and glorify any material personality and feel the kind of lasting joy that we do just by putting Krishna in the middle. You can't. It doesn't happen. It's not possible. If you glorify devotees, that'll do it too. But you can run the experiment. You can try waking up early and glorifying some material personality and chanting, worshiping them and thinking about them, remembering them, and see the effect on your consciousness. And it's categorically different. So there's a way in which everybody's doing this, whether they're doing it under the aegis and the umbrella of spirituality, they're doing it under the umbrella of business or politics or socialization or family time or pop culture. There's always going to be thinking about, talking about, remembering, hearing, speaking, and actually offering special worship, special respect. That's always going to be there. There's going to be like your favorite. There's going to be the person that you idea that you espouse. There's going to be like your pet, your most dear. And this bhakti process is trying to turn that part of us that can love, that can give attention to, that can glorify, that can put in the middle, and have that be about Krishna. That's really all it is. And how to do it? Ekena manasa. Ekena, eka means one. Ekena manasa means one, with one mind. In the Bhagavad Gita, early on, the second chapter, can I get a Bhagavad Gita?
Mm-hmm.
In the second chapter, Krishna talks about having single-pointed attention and having many-branched attention. He says, Bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. He says that the resolution, the determination of people who are many-branched is splayed out. It's not actually focused. But if you look at the resolution, the determination of those who are actually focused, it's single-pointed. And it gets results because of it. This is a test. Do I remember where to find the links? Right now. I don't think I'm seeing it. It was earlier in the chapter, obviously. So it's okay.
What does it say?
Look up many-branched Bhagavad Gita. So this point is there that Krishna is making himself, that this is a symptom, actually, of advancement, is even trying to apply ourselves with single-pointed attention, because the results you get from doing that are quite different than being branched out. Bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam.
241.
241 for those keeping track.
Is it the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched?
And those who are on this path are resolute themselves. 240. 41. Yeah, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. And Prabhupada in that purport of Bhagavad Gita, he really focuses on how to actually apply this. And he says that really a practical way to do that is to take the order of the spiritual master and make that your meditation. And he takes that out of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, which is very strongly focused on that point. And Prabhupada himself was very strongly focused on that point, so much so that the Krishna consciousness movement manifested because of his decades-long thinking about the order of a spiritual master before he could spend much time around him, after he had witnessed the spiritual master leave his body, while he was like stuck in the material tabernacle of raising kids and making money, doing stuff, and when can I do this? When can I spread bhakti? When can I present bhakti in English? My Guru Maharaj asked for it, thinking, meditating deeply. That was his life for actual decades. It's like, I can't do it now, but when can I do it? When can I do it? How can I do it? Like this thinking of, he said to do this. This is really important. This is coming from Lord Chaitanya. This is my dharma. This is what is left for me. Like, please, And there was no apparent movement externally for so long, but there was all that resolution, all that focus internally, even while he was doing the necessary, signing the forms, paying the bills, raising the kids, doing the everything, business, gaining the business, losing the business, all that. It was thinking, how can I do this? Because the order was there that you should spread this Krishna consciousness in English, and you should distribute books. It'll be good for you and good for those who help you. And you should take very seriously this Krishna consciousness movement and spread it around the world, especially the West, English speaking world. And Prabhupada was meditating on it because he got it. And that's coming from Krishna through his guru. And so this single pointed attention is that it doesn't matter whether I'm successful. It doesn't matter how it manifests. It just matters that I try to apply myself in this. I have to do that. And whatever happens, I'm not going to stop. And the basic order to spiritual master, somebody may say, well, I have not received a specific instruction from my spirit, or I don't have a spiritual master. I don't know what to do. Well, the basic thing is coming in these purports. Srila Prabhupada is functioning as a Shiksha Guru for everybody. Chant here every day. And if you can create a tight core of hearing and chanting ekada with single pointed attention, then do that. If you can't sit and chant 16 rounds attentively every day, have a core practice where you do have an attentive hearing and chanting. And throughout the rest of the day, chant on your clicker when you're walking around, chant as much as you can, and do whatever you can on top of it. But have that core practice and glorify, and come to these Bhagavatam classes and have a morning reading yourself. Have a 5 minutes at least Bhagavatam every day. And there's always a point at which you have to take a stand. It's like, well, I can't chant 16 rounds attentively. Okay, what can you chant attentively? Can you chant 2 rounds attentively? Can you chant one mantra attentively? Just like wherever it is, take a stand. I'm doing this. I'm putting everything on hold. And no matter what my mind says, I'm going to chant this one mantra attentively. It's like, that's my, line in the sand. This far and no farther, Maya. I'm doing this. One mantra. The next day, try 2. And what happens is that you become happy. You become empowered. Your life will move. This decision to give one-pointed attention, even if it just reveals how difficult it is for me to be one-pointed, how crippled I am, that's actually just fuel for taking shelter of Krishna more, because it's like, okay, Krishna, here I am in the mantra, and I'd like to be with you, but I'm so haunted by my mind. I'm so weak, and I'm so this, and I'm so that. And it's like, if you can see that, and your intention is to be present, then that's just more fuel, because you have more to offer, Krishna. I'm so pathetic, actually, that here I am. I really need your help. Please be present with me. If you put that fuel into the chanting, it's just more powerful chanting. So you can't lose. So there's really no situation no point at which this advice is not useful. Chant as much as you can with attention. You can do it in prison. You can do it in bad health. You can do it when the world around you makes no sense. And so this is a universal instruction. And it may not solve our immediate problems. That's granted, but it does solve our ultimate problem. And that's what we have to have it as a core practice every day, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not complicated. We have like 4 things given us first: glorifying and hearing. So hearing and chanting, what you put out with your words and what you take back in, remembering, and puja, worshiping. And those can be broken down practically in infinite ways. There's a really long purport, Seventh-Canto Bhagavatam, where the 9 processes of bhakti, of which these are 4, are broken down over like 35 pages. It's the longest purport, I think, in Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. Because the practice of bhakti, although very simple, can become as complicated, as detailed as you want. And that's not a burden. That's an opportunity. Because some people are attracted to one kind of practice and others attracted to another kind of practice. Maybe you really want to memorize verses. I love memorizing Shastra. I think it's beautiful. I love the feeling of having a verse in the Sanskrit pop up in my mind. It's actually completely different than having material memory pop up in your mind. You can feel it. It's actually like if you have like a picture of Krishna come up in your mind, or the Maha Mantra or Kirtan come up in your mind, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh my God, it's Darshan. I can see him. So if you have a verse of Bhagavad Gita, like the one we just looked up, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. That's Krishna. He spoke that verse. He actually spoke that. If you hear that verse, you're hearing his voice. And some people that think memorizing verses is like torture for me. I can't imagine doing that. It's not my thing. I got you. There's a million and other ways you can practice this hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshiping. There's so many things you can do about that. I just mentioned like remembering the deity, remembering kirtan. That's all remembering too. And that's just one aspect of one branch, remembrance of bhakti. So start simple and then find out what you love by testing. Try some basic deity worship. Try having a picture of the Panchatattva and offering incense. You might love it. It's actually really cool. I did deity worship at a very, elaborate level for years. I don't do it at that level anymore right now. I may again, but I can tell you there's nothing else like it. It's really special. I think it's important to be, as Prabhupada said, expert in one thing and experienced in everything, right? Know a little bit about everything and everything about one thing. And that's a beautiful thing because you can focus on something and get really deep in it, find that you love it, and explore it and be kind of a resource for people around you. Like, I know people who, if I want to worship Lord Nrsingadev, I approach that person. They're like, worship Lord Nrsingadev. Somebody who's like made the nectar of instruction, their life and soul. I'll approach them if I have a very specific, I want to go deep in the nectar of instruction, and that's great. And also, everybody should read the nectar of instruction, and everyone should have a relationship with Lord Nrsingadev, and everyone should do this a little bit and that a little bit, and it's also a wonderful opportunity. And to make it simple, just start with these 4 things: hearing, chanting, remembering, some worship, and understand that it's not actually foreign to the soul because we're always doing it. So just to reflect and recap, everybody is hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshiping. Everyone's doing it. Even if it's just their sports team and their family and their dog and their politician and their, like if you find your great grandfather and like, oh, the good old days, that's just remembering. That's just remembering. Back in my day, yeah. I'm glad you can do that because it's natural. So do it for Krishna. Have a core practice every day and build around that core practice. If you can't be fully attentive, with all your practice, have a core of your practice that is fully attentive, and the rest of it is like on the go. And that's good. Don't feel ashamed for having some practice on the go, because that's also your relationship with Krishna. And it's like chanting in attentive rounds, because that's the best you can do, is better than chanting no rounds. But also have a core practice that's like this far, no farther. This is between me and Krishna and Maya. Go away. And even if it's one mantra. And then we talked about these 4 practices and how they distribute themselves infinitely, like a giant river into little tiny streams. You can specialize, and you can also sample. It's a giant buffet. You can sample everything. So, that's kind of good, like that. That's nice, but I don't want to go back to that right now. And you find something you love and just take 7.5 plates of it. Go for it. And unlike a buffet, you will never get full. And there's no MSG.
MSG free.
MSG free. No additives. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
So anything you heard about hearing with single pointed attention, these 4 things, how it manifests in material life, how to practice it, how to specialize, how to sample, please reflect back. This is your chant. You're done hearing, I can chant. This is how it works. First to hear, then to chant.
I appreciated how you spoke about, well, there is, look at all the texts we have, and this is not even a sliver of all the texts there are on bhakti and from the Vedas, and there's so much to learn, and once you learn something, it unlocks the door to another thing to go deeper into learning, and there's so many verses, and right, you also spoke about, you do such a nice job of simplifying things, right? And like you said that the bhakti process is trying to shift the love and glorifying that we have from the material world towards Krishna.
Yeah.
and like to really simplify all of the practices, all the texts, all the verses, all, our puja, all of our worshiping, all these four pieces, these four angas we just spoke of, like that is the point.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I focus so much on Bhagavad Gita, because
Mhm.
Bhagavad Gita is elementary philosophy, it's elementary Sanskrit, it's the basics, and it never gets old, actually, never.
Mhm.
The most advanced devotees I know are still taking shelter of Bhagavad Gita, quoting Bhagavad Gita, reading Bhagavad Gita, talking about it. It's so cool, it's so fun, it's so relevant,
Mhm.
especially if you're like connected to the world. Bhagavad Gita has so much advice for living a happy life, so much.
Mhm.
And if you can focus on like even one verse of Bhagavad Gita, you can go so deeply into it,
Mhm.
and there's so much depth there. So sometimes people look at that bookcase and they're like, "Well, that's flabbergasting. I can never have time for that." First of all, you can. You just have to do a little bit every day. We talked about this I think last week. You read 10 pages of Bhagavatam,
8 pages.
8 pages of Bhagavatam every day. You finish it in 5 years, right?
Mhm.
That's totally doable. How about 4 pages? Finish it in a decade. You're going to be a decade older anyway. You may as well get it in. And how about you just focus on the Bhagavad Gita and really get that down while you're reading your 8 pages? Like, how about you like make that your thing? And how about you pick one verse from the Bhagavad Gita and memorize that? Maybe you can't memorize the Sanskrit, memorize the English, memorize the point of the verse and have that be like your thing. I mean, Jiva Goswami says that Sarva Dharman Parityajya, this verse at the end of Bhagavad Gita, 1866. Just give up all varieties of religion, abandon it, and take shelter of me. I will take care of you. Do not fear, do not worry, do not hesitate. I will free you from all reaction. Jiva Goswami says the devotees are always thinking about this verse. They're always taking shelter of this promise of Krishna. They're meditating deeply on this because this is their lifeline. He's promised this. So you can do that with that verse or really any other one. And you can develop a relationship with it. So it's the mind kind of recoils if we have a large task. It's nice to break it down into manageable chunks.
Mhm.
So if that's too much, and break it down into a smaller chunk. Find an idea within the verse and just think about that for a while. And everything in bhakti is like that. If you can't chant 16 rounds, chant a mantra. Chant one mantra with your full heart. And then if you did that, then try two the next day until you can't do it anymore. And then just stick at that number for a while and then increase gradually because you'll have the power to, you'll get empowered. And you'll get to forget about 16. You can chant way more than 16 if you follow this process. 16 is the minimum. You'll want to chant all the time. You get empowered to do it. So it's just about my focus is in many ways helping people get out of their own way because we think we have to do it under our own power, and it's like no, you don't. You can't. Take a step, and then receive Krishna's mercy, and then take a bigger step. That's all it is. Jai. More reflections.
Yeah, I really appreciate you talking about the fact that, you can do it the way that works for you. So for instance, I'm in my own way. I'm in my head because I can't memorize things. Like I'm a very big picture person. I get the point and I can really go deep on the point. And you know me, I love to research and read and find out all the stuff. But like if you were to say, you know, give me an example of that in verse, I can't tell you exactly where it is. And I'm now years old and I still don't know my times tables. Like I'm just my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, but I get the point, and it's comforting to hear you say, especially because you've got this crazy brain that you can memorize all that stuff. I envy that. I can't do that. But I have other talents in other ways, and it's comforting to hear you say that you can apply yourself in other ways and still be just as devout and worship in your own way. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and also like I also said, you don't have to be great at it, but you can also just sample it. It's like it's not that you have to be the world's greatest memorizer of verses, but if you also just this beautiful practice, for example, of reading a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you can just read the verses of the chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's glorified by Lord Shiva in Shastra. It's glorified in many places. Among other benefits, it purifies you of all seva aparad. Any offense created in the cause of your service is purified immediately by chanting chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Takes about, for the shortest chapters, like 5 minutes. Chapter 12 is the shortest chapter. It takes you like 5 minutes, even in just in English. If you do that, what I did was I read chapter 1 every day for a month. And then I did chapter 2 every day for a month. I did that for a year and a half. I got through the whole Bhagavad Gita because I really wanted to develop a relationship with the verses. I did it in Sanskrit, then I looked at the word for word. And that's why, I memorized verses or whatever. But if you just do it in English, you will develop a relationship with the verses. You can't help it. You, you may not be great at it, but if you do it every day, first of all, you'll be ecstatic. It's a lot of fun. And second of all, you'll have a sense of the flow of Krishna's intelligence in the conversation. It's like you can now be an acharya on that chapter, right? Like I didn't remember where the verse was, but I knew it was in chapter 2. I knew it was somewhere in the middle. So I like looked from verse 45 to 60 and it wasn't there. Then I looked from verse 25 to 40 and it wasn't there because it's on verse 42. But I was like in the ballpark and I had some of the verses.
Right.
So you could Google it, and that's like that ended up being enough. You don't have to memorize everything, but if you have an idea of where it can be found generally, that also helps.
Right.
And yeah, if you can't know all 18 chapters and all 12 cantos, then you can focus on something and you can be like, well, I think this chapter is cool. I'm gonna like read the verses every day. You can do that. Who can stop you? And I promise you, if you did that for a couple of weeks, you would notice some amazing things and you could have some realizations. And it may not be as much as if you focus on some other practice. It may not be like your strong suit, but don't sell yourself short. Try it out. From Krishna's point of view, it's absolute. He doesn't care if you're like, able to memorize all these verses or not. The fact that you tried is so amazing for him. Like Lord Chaitanya glorified one devotee who was trying to read the Bhagavad Gita, and when he found the devotee was crying. And Lord Chaitanya said to him, why are you crying? And he said, well, my spiritual master instructed me to read Bhagavad Gita every day, but I don't know how to read. I'm illiterate. And you might think that he's crying because he can't read. He said, no, I'm crying because I'm trying, and everybody's laughing at me. But every time I sit down and read Bhagavad Gita, all I can remember is this. Krishna is in the cover. Krishna's there instructing Arjuna. And here he is, he's God. But he has taken the position of a servant of his devotee. And it makes me feel so emotional. I have to cry. He's getting so emotional that he's like overwhelmed with tears because Krishna is here serving his devotee, right? And he couldn't remember anything. He couldn't read, but he's overwhelmed with the mercy of Krishna. And so he's thinking, well, this is my experience of Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Chaitanya said, you have understood Bhagavad Gita. You got it. But he did that because he took the order of his spiritual master seriously. His guru said read. He couldn't read, but he tried. And it changed everything. So don't think that your material strengths or weaknesses are going to get in the way. It is absolute. You're literate. You got something on that devotee. And it was just this experience of Lord Chaitanya actually crying when he could see this devotee's bhakti, because the devotee was able to remember Krishna just by trying to think about Bhagavad Gita. You may not memorize a verse, but if you have a sense of appreciation for Krishna and the conversation, that's the point. The point of memorizing verses is to develop bhakti. It's not to be a scholar. And the point of being a scholar for Krishna is develop more bhakti for Krishna. Even that's your service. It's a service. You can be a service, have the service of being a scholar for Krishna. That's also a service. That service should just increase your bhakti and the bhakti of others, right? If it doesn't do that, then you're just a jnani, right? So don't worry about it. Bhakti is available everywhere. You can completely screw the verse. Like I hear people chant verses all the time where they don't pronounce the Sanskrit properly. I mean, practically all the time. And some of these people who are devotees who are chanting it, I'm like in awe about their bhakti. I'm in awe of their relationship with Krishna. Krishna doesn't care about that. Try your best. And if the best you can do is you bungle it, I promise you he doesn't care, because there's no other explanation for how these devotees are so advanced. It's not about getting things perfect externally. It's about trying to, and falling and failing, and what happens in the process. That's all it is. Because you'll appreciate Krishna more. And that's the whole point. That's the actual point. You'll be more and more amazed by him.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Yeah, it's I like how he talks about how all these things have in the material with like there's no permanent effect, right? It's like you're talking about like remembering things that aren't important or reading things or hearing things or chanting things, speaking things, right? That have no permanent effect. It's like you could even, like you said, like read the whole Bhagavatam and be completely absent-minded. Like you're just getting the pages done to get the pages done. And if you aren't focused on getting that permanent effect, it's kind of it's a very materialistic thing, right? It's to say, oh, I've read the Bhagavatam could be a very materialistic thing.
Yeah.
But if there's no permanent effect, if there's no like, oh, this is a form of service, this is a form of service. It's like it really is kind of just like
Academics.
it's
Study.
purely academic. And it's
Yeah.
like I was thinking about that last year. I like look back at all the books I read last year. It's like that were not in a bhakti interest. I'm like, this was purely me just trying to get how many pages could I read in a year? Like, like I look back, I was like, I was just reading to read to because I was like, I want to get a really high score this year. It was like, it's a very materialistic, very just like,
Ego.
ego. Yeah, exactly. Ego.
These are bhakti books or just other books?
Not just other like
Yeah.
fiction and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, I was like, I
Pick the
didn't.
box did that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not even sure if I enjoyed it. Like, it was like,
Yeah, what did it leave you with? Like when you go to school, you have to memorize all these
Yeah,
things, you take all these
exactly.
tests, and
Yeah.
a year later, a day later, sometimes
Yeah.
you're like, I don't remember anything.
yeah.
I passed a test, so that's good enough
Exactly.
for me.
Yeah. Exactly. So like this year, I memorized one verse from the Shikastikam,
Amazing.
Mm.
and it was like life changing compared to all those books I read last year, compared to like all this stuff I was doing. I was like, oh, just one. It took me like an hour. Like I was in the car. I was like, I put the Shikastikam on repeat, and I memorized it. I was like, oh, and then like now when I like do around or like it'll just pop in my head. I'm
Which
like,
verse?
Chanadapi Sunichana Tarati Api Sahishana Amanina Manana Kirtani Sadahari.
Wonderful. The third verse, yeah.
The third verse,
Yeah.
yeah.
One should always chant with a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all respect, offering respect to others, and not expecting any in return. In such a state, one can always chant Hare Krishna constantly.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like I say it every time in between a round
Yeah.
to remind myself like what am I doing here? What's the point? And like it changes everything. It's like that took like an hour, and it's like so it's like it's just
That's
like
an hour of worship. That's an hour of intense bhakti.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And so like I think just I like the reminder of like focus on the things that have permanent effect, because that's really it's so easy to get down these rabbit holes of things that aren't having any permanent effect.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done a really good job of creating a culture where we can be distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said it may not solve the immediate problems, but it'll solve the core problem.
Yeah, which is why you have to have it every day. I mean, you also need to eat and drink every day.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
So this is like eating and drinking. You got to keep that plant watered. You got to keep the sunshine on the plant.
Plant goddess.
You got to keep it in Sangha.
Very cool.
Any other reflections before we wrap it up?
Yeah, but oh, Hare Krishna.
Leanne's in Vermont. She's a
Amazing.
Can you hear me okay?
We love that. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I also really liked what you spoke about, keeping it simple or making it as complicated as you want, and just having the reminder of staying committed to, what you're drawn to, and then slowly increasing or just adding to it a little bit at a time. Because then sometimes it can feel like too much at times, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, it's simple. And you do this. So yeah, or just like reading like one little verse at a time, whatever whatever you're drawn to too. So, and then getting to know it. I really liked how you spoke about like getting to know it and sticking with that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, that's why bhakti is practiced under guidance. It's
Mhm.
because we can't know our own capacity. We know something. It's like we have some, but for sure you have to be part of the process of figuring out like how much do I chant, like when, and but it's also a thing of because we're stepping into something that we don't actually understand from the outside. It's very difficult to know what's too much, what's too little, what's the proper stretch zone where I'm like, so proper guidance is guidance that's wise enough and has the time and care and attention, affectionately inclined to you to care enough and to help you to and keep you be accountable to like actually making advancement steadily, where you're not trying to do too much and freaking out or falling short and that whole thing and not just like stagnating. And I had that in the first few years of bhakti, and it made a gigantic difference. And good, healthy communities they include that. So, Kishore and I try to offer that as much as possible, informally, but even formally, like professionally, and it really makes a difference. So, yeah, get some of that if you don't have it already. I know you do,
She does.
but I'm just saying that's it just accelerates everything. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. May you all experience single-pointed hearing, chanting, remembering, and worship every day. There's something in chat. Let's see what that is.
Okay. Please, what was the text number? Okay, we already gave it.
Yeah,
420,
241.
241. Yeah,
What's 241?
it was 241. All right, Bowl.